Hi, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, sorry for the little delay in this morning. So we just wanted to start by going over our housekeeping rules again. So like we said yesterday, all of our workshops will be recorded. So if you don't want to share your face with the internet, keep your camera off. All keynote speakers will be on the stage where we are right now. Workshops will be in the sessions. Entry is available 5 minutes before the scheduled start time. Participation will be at the presenter's discretion. So don't join the video or audio unless you're invited to do so. And then if you are, we'll have a maximum of 9 because it's being recorded. If you want to check out more of the schedule, you can go to outct.org. We had bingo last night, a little long, but lots of fun. And then tonight we'll have a social hour and comedy show starting at 7 will be the social hour, 8 o'clock's the comedy show. And we sent the Zoom link out. So if you don't have that, get in contact us and we can.
And we'll aggressively distribute the Zoom link so that everybody for sure has it. Like We'll put it in the chat and Facebook and everything like that. So
we are going to get started on our first presentation. Mo George is here, and we'll let her get.
Let's get out of the way.
Yeah, we'll get out of the way.
Hi, folks. Good to see everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here. Honored to take part in NERP, Northeastern Regional Pride Conference. Attended a couple of times, and this whole virtual thing isn't as best as seeing everybody in person, but we're going to work it out. We've been virtual for almost a year, so we'll work it out. So today we're going to talk about diversity and pride. As you saw from the title, I have up that the question was like, are we still talking about this or not? Right? We're in 2021, and the fact that we have to have a discussion regarding pride and diversity, a little pathetic, like if we're honest, right? That we should not have to still have these conversations. But we're gonna have this conversation today. We're gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna share what I've experienced in my years. So for those who don't know, I'm part of Queen's Pride, and been part of Queen's Pride, NYC Pride, for probably maybe about 15 years, and had wonderful experiences and learned tons and tons of things. So what we're going to talk about for the next 40 minutes is some things that I've learned that we all should take into consideration when we're thinking about pride and diversity. Leo, can we do the next slide? So the big question, is your pride diverse? Right? There are 5 things that you should ask yourself and remember. Right? We're going to go through them. Sorry, the slide is coming up kind of crazy. So the first one, pride starts at home. We'll get back to that because that's important, right? But number 1, as you see, so check your privilege at the door. Mo, what does that mean? What it means is there is an assumption that because we're all part of the LGBT community, that we're all the same. We are not. Let me say that again. Just because we're all part of the LGBT community, we are not the same, right? So when we talk about checking your privilege at the door, right, we are talking about your privilege, whether it's white, whether it's male, whether it's female, whether it's white female, whether it's black female, all sorts of privilege, whether it's ableism, whether it's your ability to do things that there are all sorts of privileges that come up that we have to be aware of, that we have those privileges, right? Like even today, right? We're on this, we have an ASL interpreter. There's privilege in that. So we have to be really, really, really aware about our privileges and how they show up in pride, right? So if you're having an event, hosting an event, you're not thinking about like an ASL interpreter, or you're not thinking about having interpretation in multiple languages. Those are concerns. If you're having an event and you're not thinking that is your venue accessible to all differently abled folks, right? Those are all privileges, and those are all things that we should be thinking about when we have our event, right? So when I say check your privilege at the door, it's really, really digging in and thinking about how you're showing up and how all of your events, no matter what they are open and to everyone, right? Because like I said, again, just because we share LGBT does not mean that we're the same. So check your privilege is really about that. And I challenge people to really think deeply about it all. The second one, if you look around the committee and don't see a reflection of the world around the table, there's an issue. Period. Period. Your committees, your board, your whatever you decide to call it, should be just as diverse as the communities that come to your event. I'll say that again. It should be just as diverse as the communities that come to your event. So if you look around the table and everybody's the same color, and you have not at all made a conscious effort to make sure that those around the table are diverse, that you have people of color, that you have women, that you have trans folks, that you have differently able folks. If you're not doing that when you look around the table and see that, then you have to reevaluate. Is our pride diverse? Do we have this commitment to diversity? And really and honestly, what the hell are we doing? Right? This world is diverse. Whether we like it or not, the world is diverse, right? And if you're doing pride events and you've had conferences and marches and parades and the whole nine, your attendees are diverse. So your committee should be diverse. And if it's not, then you know that there's an issue. And which leads us into the next part. Don't just talk about it. Don't just add work at it. What that means is when you look at your committee and you see, oh, it's not diverse, it does not mean don't run out there and say, oh, you know what? Let me find a person of color. Let me find a trans person, right? Let me find someone who's differently abled. That's not what this is about. What it means is that in everything that you do and at your core, there is commitment to diversity. That means in your bylaws, in your actions, in your events, in everything, that there is a sincere commitment to making sure that it is as diverse as possible. So you're not just going, oh my goodness, yeah, the trans community is upset. Let's add a trans person. Oh my God, the people of color community is upset. Let's add a person of color community. If you embed it into your processes, if it's embedded into your bylaws and the way you operate, then you don't have to just talk about it and you're not just adding, actually work. It's like I sit on an organization, and a youth LGBT organization, and in their bylaws it states that there is commitment that their executive director be someone between the ages of 20 and I think they go up to 26. It's in it. They talk about it. There's a commitment that all of their executive directors are people who come from not only their base, but who represent them. So they specifically talked about having an ED that have risen through the ranks and that is of a set age. Now, some people may say, oh, that's Asian, but they're a youth organization and they want to stay committed to being a youth organization, meaning that they want their leadership to directly reflect what they are. The same goes for pride organizations. Put that in there. Put it in that you are commitment, that your board is diverse, that your committees are diverse. And if it's in there, then it's not just a thing like, oh, I got to find somebody to fill this. Oh, I got to add somebody because there's an uproar. All right. You're actually working on it. And if that's not the case now, work on it. Do it now. Right? Nobody wants to feel like they're the token and they were just added to add it. And prides do that. Let's be honest. Y'all do it. We do it. It happens. Stop it. Right? Nobody wants to feel that they aren't generally appreciated for what they bring to the table and that they aren't generally there because they can add, and there is a commitment to pride, to working on pride, to really reflecting all the communities. So that's where I talk about, like, don't just talk about it. Don't just add, actually work and say that we're going to sit down and make a conscious effort uh, to make sure that our board and our committees are diverse. Right. And then the other one for us says make changes. Right. That's attached to not talking about it. Right. Don't sit there and talk about it. Actually put it in the bylaws, the constitution, whatever it is that you that governs you, that says this is my commitment. This is our commitment to change. And let folks know that you've made those changes, period. That they know that you're not just talking about it, you're actually action orientated and you're moving towards what diversity looks like. And know that that's important. Folks want to know that. Folks want to see. Folks don't want to just sit on a committee and feel like their input isn't valued. So if you're not making that a priority, then you need to make it a priority. Right? There are too many prides, right? Let's have some real talk for a moment. There are too many prides that you look and it's not a reflection of the communities that attend our events. It's too many, right? There are too many situations where people are saying, yeah, we're allies with the people of color community, but yet you look at their boards and you look at their committees and they're predominantly non-people of color, and nothing is being done to make sure that there is a commitment to be a reflection of the people who attend your pride on the board. That's not acceptable, y'all, right? It's not. We're in 2021. The fact that we're still talking about this, a little problematic, right? So make an effort, an actual effort, an effort. Wait, did I say that again? An effort. Yeah, do that to make sure that you're a commitment to what's happening, right? Back when I talked about checking your privilege at the door, among all of that is also making sure that you're a good ally in how you show up for folks, right? Different able folks, folks of color, trans folks, bi folks. Like, be a good ally, right? Don't just do it and say, oh, we did it and I'm here. That's whack. Super, super whack. Don't do that. Actually be an ally. And if you don't know how to be an ally, find out. Don't keep going to people of color, though, and asking us how to be an ally. It is our job to teach you. Figure it out. Google is your friend. And figure out how to be authentic in what you're doing to make sure that you're diverse. Stop asking differently able folks, trans folks, folks of color, how to show up. It's not rocket science, people. It really isn't. Right? Want to be an ally? There's ways that you can be. Don't come to us asking us. Figure it out. Right? Really, really figure it out. There's good ways that you could do it. I believe in y'all. Right? And that, then folks on the outside would know that your pride is actually a commitment to making it work, to moving it forward, to making folks feel that they're actually valued at the table. Right? And that isn't with just doing because you're doing or because somebody said to do it. It's doing it because you're a real commitment and you know that when you host your pride or when you have your events, that the people that are attending are a reflection of the people that sit on your committee. Again, that's like number 2. If there aren't, then there is a problem. Address it. Really address it. Don't do this bullshit cover just because somebody called y'all out on it. Really address it and then make changes about it. And then move forward knowing that you actually are a commitment to it. Right? I think that if we remember that what I said in the beginning, right, that even though we may share a plethora of identities, that we're not the same, and we actually move forward with that, we then will move in a ways that is respectful to each other. Because I think that there's this thinking that, oh, well, we're all gay, so yeah, no. No, no, that's not it at all. All different, right? Yes, we may be gay, maybe lesbian, trans, bisexual, differently able, all of that, but we're all different, and we have to work to acknowledge and celebrate people's differences in pride if we are true commitments to diversity. If we cannot celebrate people's differences in pride, then yeah, we're not. We're not doing that. We're not working towards it. We're just having prides. We're just having events. And we're not really getting at the core why we do this work and why we spend our time on committees, putting on events, doing things, and often with no monetary commitment to it, right? So we really, really, really have to make sure that what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're showing up is authentic, and that we're respectful of everybody, as we're working on making sure that our pride is diverse. So again, I'm going to go over it. Then I'm going to go back to pride. Pride starts at home. One, check your privilege at the door. We all have privilege in some ways, right? All of us. So we have to make sure that we're checking that, right? Again, how that shows up is making sure any events, any committees, that they're all diverse, that they're all open, that they're all welcoming, right? Right? When new folks come in, you want to be welcoming that they came in and they may be differently abled or trans, that we're welcoming to everybody, right? Don't get into that like, oh, where committees do, where, I've been here a long time and I know what's best. It's a new world. Look what happened this last year. We've gone virtual. It's a new world. We have to be open to all of that. Right. Again, two, when you look around the table, see a reflection of the world. If you don't, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. If that table isn't a reflection of the folks who come to your events, you're doing something wrong. Then don't talk about it. Just don't add to add. Don't say, oh, well, we're going to fix that. We're going to make it a reflection. And that's what's going to happen. And we just want to rush and do it because somebody might have called you out about it, or somebody might have been, wrote up, or articles. We've seen it. We've been there. Somebody's blasting some pride for something that they didn't do. Then now the answer is to rush and fix it instead of taking a time and actually generally fixing it and having people understand that's the reason why that you're doing it, that you're not doing it just because somebody wrote an article or sent a tweet or that, right? You're really a commitment to be a reflection of what you see in the world. So work on it and then make changes. Make solid structural changes. Don't just talk about it. Like I said, put it in your bylaws, constitution, whatever it is, whatever governs you, right? You want to make sure that there is a commitment there that people know. That people know that there is a way that they is a way that they can be incorporated, and a way that is actually beneficial for them and beneficial for the organization. So you're not just making changes to make changes. You're making changes because you deeply believe and that you want to be a reflection, that you want to have people committed, that you want to have the world know that you're a reflection of what they see, and that pride is for everybody and not just for a few, right? And I am one who likes questions and likes to talk to folks. I'm not really big on just talking at folks. There's a question in the chat about, is there time for questions? Yes, there's time for questions. If you have questions, please send them in the chat and we'll talk about it. Like, feel free, because I think that's how we dialogue. So the one thing that I don't like about some virtual is not be able to have dialogue back and forth with folks. So if there's questions that folks have, let's do it. All right. Let's see if some questions are coming up, because I know folks are thinking. And thank y'all for being here. I know it's hecka early on a Saturday. We all had full lives this week. Is virtual killing everybody like it's killing me? Okay. Questions. Okay. Will your language in bylaws be very specific, such as race, gender, identity, age, differently able, etc.? I think that's up to y'all. So to give the example of the youth organization that I'm a part of, yes, in their bylaws, they are very specific around their executive director. They have an age requirement, and they have a requirement that, one, the person comes directly from membership, and they have a requirement that the person is a certain age, because they want the person there's a commitment to being youth led, and for them they define youth as an age range, and they want to be able to support that by the executive director that they choose. So for them, yes, their language is very specific, and they adhere to it. So their board is diverse. They do have older members. They allow older members on my board, but their actual executive director has to be between 21 and 26. So, and then the other part of the question is, should the language be specific as a versus just using the language of diversity? Like, what does that mean? Yeah, I think it should be specific. Like, yeah, using the language that it be diverse, what does that mean? Right? I think that there are different interpretations. You can say, oh yeah, it needs to be diverse. And then you look at the committee and it just has men and women, white men, white women. That's not diversity, right? So yeah, I think we should have a commitment to it, actual language that speaks to what we want to happen, as opposed to not just saying diversity, right? Because let's be honest, the fact that we're still talking about diversity in 2021 means that folks haven't gotten it right. So maybe we need to be specific, because using the word diversity as an answer, probably not getting to it. All right, there is in the question, what approach would you recommend for outreach to diverse communities? So there's a couple. So one, I think your outreach has to be it can't be the outreach that I've seen some prides doing. Oh God, y'all gotta stop it. Like this really, oh, we're gonna go outreach to people of color communities because there were protests, right? Or last summer there was a bunch of protests, and now we want to outreach to communities of color or diverse communities. No, if you're doing the work, right? If you're actually doing the work and you're letting people know that you're doing the work and that you're looking and it is genuine, then people will get the message and they will be attracted to want to be a part of it, right? So if people don't know, if people of color communities don't know that you're looking for someone, right? And then they go and then they see an announcement that they are, and then they go to your website, right? Or they go to some of the events and they don't see diversity, right? That's a little problematic, right? So then you turning around and then saying, well, there's no diversity because we don't know how to engage diverse communities. kind of a cop-out, right? I, I think the important thing to remember that is people, those are things that they're attracted to and that they like to see. And then, so outreach starts at home. You should be doing outreach during your events, right? You should be letting people know because that's where people are going to come. And letting people know that you're looking for diverse committee members and diverse board members, not just wait before or after the event, during the event when you have the most audience there, right? And then if it's welcoming, right, and they see it's welcoming, then it's easy for people to tell other people, yo, I went to this thing, it was really dope, you should come, and you should be a part, right? Don't just do it because now, there's all this Black Lives Matter stuff, so you feel like, oh, no, people, like, don't pacify us. People of color, we don't need all of that, right? If there is a genuine excitement and a think, I okay, I think we're back. We were frozen a little, sorry about that. So I think that there is when you see that, when you know that there is a lack, right? Then do it through events. Don't just do it because you're doing it. Do it through your events. Do sincere outreach at your events, and then folks will know, right? And then as far as like outreach to people of color, you can put information out there, and if people are interested, they'll see. And then also work with other groups, right? If you're not working with community groups on the ground that are diverse, you need to also ask that, right? Like, what groups are we working with to let folks know this is what we're doing for Pride, and you can be a part, right? Like, what other um, uh, organizations of color could we outreach to directly to say, hey, we're doing this, could you partner? Or, hey, we're doing this, could you lead something, right? So if you're not doing that, that's problematic. But that is a surefire way to get folks involved. Okay. Then so there was another question, is there a preferred language choice that should be considered as a part of outreach or marketing? So I don't know if it really depends on your community, right? In New York. We tend to have tons and tons of Latinos who attend our event. So it's often, there's often Spanish interpretation. But it really depends on your community and where you're having Pride. And doing, possibly maybe doing a poll or a survey or something that really assesses like, okay, maybe Spanish is one, but do we need Mandarin? Do we need French? Do we need, you know, you know, other languages? So I would recommend finding out, doing a poll of those who attend your event and then seeing and then making a commitment to providing that kind of language interpretation. So, and another one, there's another question. What if you put in all the work and do the steps and make an effort, but people feel it's disingenuous? What's the next steps? Well, I think that question, thanks Ari from Brooklyn Pride. So I think the feeling of disingenuous has to do with how it's done, right? So some prides haven't been a commitment to diversity. So then when all of a sudden you start it, right, and you start to look in community of color or able communities, then people are like, why y'all here? Then it looks suspect. Like, oh, now all of a sudden, now you want to be diverse, but you haven't been diverse this whole time, right? So there will be some people who will be skeptical of that, even if you have done the work before, right? But to me, the answer to that is about consistency, right? If you are fully committed to making sure that diversity, that you're as diverse as possible, then what some people feel can't be the reason why it stops you, right? Yes, some people will feel that your efforts are disingenuous, but some people won't, right? And those people that don't are the ones you need to talk to first. And the hopes is that the other folks will come along as they see you actually doing the work, right? But if they don't see you doing the work, and if they only see you doing the work in times of crises, like, like, oh, there's a bunch of protests, so now let's rush out and try and find folks of color to sit on our committees or sit on our board, then yeah, folks feel like, oh no, seriously, now you're doing that. So I think you have to stay committed, and you can't really concentrate on those people who are feeling a certain way. You really have to go after those folks who are like, have known and seen your work and say like, okay, you know what? Let me give it a chance. Now, would it be massive of folks? May not in the beginning. It could be just one or two, but one or two can lead to two more, and then two more, and then two more. So you have to start somewhere. So I think that those are like the steps you have to take, but don't just do it in the moment. And that's what a lot of organizations do. They see it in the moment, they see crisis in the moment, and then they very much feel like, oh, we got to do something now. And that's when people feel disingenuous, because you're not really, you know, putting in the work all the time, because diversity is something that is a commitment to, not just because George Floyd got killed. Right? The other question, what, in your opinion, is your opinion of mentoring programs? I feel it is our responsibility. This is from Alan Reef. I feel it is our responsibility for those of us with years of experience and who are aware of their privilege and want to use it for good to be assertive, to reach out and find capable people who may feel unwelcome, to try to help them see their potential and help them move up to leadership. What do you think about that? Thank you. Alan Beef, Enterprise. Thanks, Alan. Great question. So I think mentorship is vital. And I'm give y'all something. So I've been around Pride, I think I said maybe about 15 years. I have personally never been one to feel like I'm the only one to do it, because I was taught that leaders have followers, one, and true leaders develop other leaders. So I don't have to be at the forefront. I don't have to be the main leader. What actually is exciting is how many people I brought along with me to move the agenda forward so I could step out. That there's that meme with Homer Simpson where like he fades into the bushes. That's the kind of leader folks should be. And when you fade into the bushes, you want to know that there are other folks that you have trained to be able to take your place, to be able to know that this is what's happening, to feel that you are the only person that can do something is connected to that check your privilege at the door. You are not. And if you are not actively training somebody to take your position, to learn about NERP, North New England Regional Prides, to learn what it means to be a board chair or to be an event director or to be a runner at one of the events. If you are not actively pushing people and letting people know that they can do it, and you're thinking that it has to be you year after year after year, like some of you are doing, then you have to question. You have to really question, because it is, if you want other folks to come up and you want diversity, then there's a commitment to that. If you want other leaders, there's a commitment, and you as a leader have a responsibility to build other leaders, period. If you can't point to at least two people that you brought along with you on this Pride ride and you've been doing Pride for years, then you got to ask yourself what that means. And I mean doing Pride in leadership positions. And you haven't brought folks along, people can't look to you and say, oh, yeah, I came up. And I had amazing people to do that for me. David Snyder, rest in peace. Alan Reeve, Miriam Mabello, all of those people who took the time to show me, to teach me, to come up. Alan still spends a great ton of his time making sure if I have a question, if I text him, if I call him, and I'm going through something and he's there. Like, you have to have a commitment. So that leads to the question of mentorship programs. Hell yeah, there needs to be mentorship programs, because some of y'all prides suck. Okay, let me say it again. Some of y'all prides suck at bringing people up to take your position, right? And that is attached to privilege, right? That's a whole nother workshop that I'll do at a later date, but that is attached to privilege. So if y'all really, really want to be a commitment to diversity and to leadership, then yes, you should be developing mentorship programs. You should be bringing people up under you. You should be being able to step back and allow somebody to step in and know that you don't have to be at the forefront of leading. And if you feel like you the only person to lead, then you the only person who can do it, then yeah, you need to check your privilege at the door, because that's whack. Totally. So I think it's important that if you don't have a mentorship program, that you should create one, right? And being able to let folks know that it's happening, and know that the intent of doing it is to make sure that people are able to come up, because that happens to folks. I've seen it. People come in, they they get interested, they want to go to learn other things, and people are not willing to show them. People are not willing to teach them. People want to hoard knowledge and hoard their particular knowledge around doing something, as opposed to educating somebody and letting them step up, you know what I mean? And letting them step up and step into what is their greatness. The same way you had it, you should be able to see it in somebody else and be able to support that person, so that that person feels welcome, because that is attached to the disingenuous question that we had earlier, right? So if people come in and they're working, they're doing something, and they don't see people being welcoming and sort of supportive of what they're doing, and they feel like they're working their tail off in there, and then it comes to elections and and all kind of craziness comes, and this person who's working is not getting it because, again, we're picking somebody who's been around 49 years, right? Then we got to ask ourselves, is that truly a commitment, right? Is that diversity? Is that progress? Or is that just hoarding power, right? Because that's not how power works. So yeah, if you do not have a mentorship program within, that is an excellent way to show people that you actually are a commitment to diversity, and that you actually are a commitment to making sure that the organization flows and grows, right? Yeah, we have to get away from this. I'm the only one can do it, and and then next thing you know, you're around and it's 59 million later, and you can't give two people that you brought up under you and made sure that they have flourished the same way you have, and that you can step back and say, you know what, I don't have to be the director. I don't have to do that. And that's not happening with a lot of y'all prides. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that. They don't want to say it. They don't want to claim it. But y'all are doing it, and it needs to stop. Because it at all is not helpful. And it actually is among the reasons that, I'll speak for folks of color, are turned off in joining. Right? We're communal people, so we want to share that. Right? So to step into something and have people like hoarding it, you know what I mean? Like, that's not welcoming, and that's not what a lot of folks of color want to be into. They want to be able to learn, and they want to be able to ascend and assess the higher levels, and to just have people like, in this power grabs, never ever attractive, and it sends people out the door. I've seen it. Right? Uh, any more questions that we have? We got a few minutes left. Thanks people for chiming in. I truly appreciate y'all. Saying, let me see if I make sure I got any. I've got any. We talked about bylaws. We talked about diversity, and it not just being a word. Please don't let it just be a word. Actually, be a commitment to diversity. It's just like first of all, I'm sick of hearing it. Like we should not, we should not just be saying diversity, diversity, diversity without a commitment to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like if there's a commitment to diversity, guess what? You won't have to keep saying it. Duh. And yes, somebody put in the chat, same thing with unemployment, EOA. Yes. Be diverse, right? Actually be a commitment to looking towards expense leadership, right? Looking towards people of color. If you don't have people of different abilities in leadership, or trans folks, or women, or if you don't have any of that, then it gets hard, right? So so there's another question. If, for example, your org expects its bisexual members to the sole organizer of Bisexual Day of Visibility, how do you get them to change that mindset? Well, one, yeah, that's a conversation. That's a conversation with the organization, right? No, just because you're that does not mean that you should be the sole organizer of that, right? Just because I'm a lesbian doesn't mean that I should just plan lesbian events, right? That is not at all respectful for my abilities. And to me, that actually means that you actually don't look at my abilities. You're just looking at one part of me. And not a part of all I can do. You're just saying, well, Mo's a lesbian, so she should just chair the lesbian events. No, let's not have her chair the the big center stage. You can't do that. Let's just pigeonhole her into that. And a part of that is you have to check, like, why would you think that? And what part of your privilege has you thinking that just because I'm a lesbian, I can only do that event? So, no, I think that to answer that question, I think how you get them out that mindset is that y'all folks gotta speak up also too. And like there also far too much silence within pride organizations. Like speak up. And I don't mean speak up like by just blasting people on Twitter, right? Like I don't know where I didn't come up, thank God, with social media like it is now, right? We just went into a meeting and then we just went at it, and then we went to go get some to eat. You know what I mean? So people have to talk, right? If it doesn't sit right, you have to talk about it, and then you have to make change, right? And not just and tell people this is how you're showing up, and just because I'm this doesn't mean that I have to coordinate this. You know what I mean? That's not it. So people got to talk. So another one, couple more questions before we wrap up. How can we as white queer people learn to leave our white supremacy at the door and use our white privilege to advocate for queer people of color within the pride planning process? Oh, that's a good one, Kyle. So one, don't ask people of color how. That's the first step. Two, generally be an ally, right? If you're a general ally around how support looks like think of yourself. What support do you want? And how does that support show up? And then do it for other folks. The most annoying shit ever, I'm going to tell y'all, is when people constantly go to black folks for us to teach white folks how to not be racist or how not to show up. No. Mm-mm. How do you want to show up? How do you show up? Right? Take a minute, put yourself in our shoes. I know it's hard, but try it. Right? And then see how you would want somebody to show up. And then do it. Then actually do it. No, that there is privilege in the world. Look up privilege, read, Google, podcasts. It's so much stuff out here, y'all. Just going and asking black folks how y'all supposed to show up. We a little tired. Don't want to do it. Stop doing that. Do some work. Put in some work to know how you should show up. That is not just asking us, because we also have different needs. So let's get away from that. Right? If you want to be an actual better ally, find out what true allyship means by doing some work. That does not include asking us. Right? And recognizing, but I will give you a hint, recognizing and learning what white privilege is, first step. Because half of y'all don't know what that means. You think you do, but you actually don't. Start there. Yep. And then I think, yes, excellent point, Monica. Yep, we all have different types of privileges despite our intersectionalities and bias, right? We all, which is what I started to say at the very beginning, right? Just because we share the letters, LGBT and the plethora of other letters, no disrespect to any of those, does not mean we're the same, right? You have to celebrate the fact that people are different and people have differences. And the minute that we are respectful of those differences, right, then we can move forward in real ways, real authentic ways, not just passive ways, right? When we actually do the work to say, I see you, Mo. I see that you're an out black butch lesbian. I see the work you're doing. I see the commitment that you have to not only your people, to your people's freedom, and to this work, and to making those white folks who want to be better, better. I see that commitment, actually seeing me, and not just going to me and say, Mo, what can I do? But actually doing it. And then even if you have to do it and then came back and say, oh, I did this, what do you think? Right? That's better than just asking me what to do and how to show up. And then think of yourself, right? Right? We are still under these letters. So there is a level of oppression under those letters. So just think if that oppression is magnetized by your color or your ability, right? So think of that. So think of like, okay, what oppression looks like if I'm just a white gay man, but then times that by a black man and times that by a black woman, right? And then you could see how is that, times 3, and not just, oh, I'm not just a lesbian, right? Or I'm not just a woman, and I'm not just. So the minute you think about all of that, then you start to think of, oh, wow, that seems like a lot. And that is a lot. And that's what makes us different, right? And also what makes us need to be seen by each other because of that difference. And that difference needs to be celebrated and not forced to fit into some mold because we share these letters. So make a commitment, stick to it. And I'm going to end because we got a few minutes where I started, where it says pride starts at home, right? Don't do this just for pride. Don't educate yourself just for pride, right? Don't work at being better just for pride. Do it because you're a commitment, because it's important to you, because you want to show up in real ways, right? Do all of that because you want to be a better person. And then when it comes to you sitting on pride, when it comes to you being on committees and showing up, it will naturally shine through because you're doing the work to make you a better you, right? And I constantly am doing the work. And yes, Cast by Isabella Wilkinson is an amazing book. But right, so is the new Jim Crow. So is a plethora of new books that are coming out, right? Patrice Cullors, When They Call You a Terrorist, right? All of these amazing books that are coming out by folks of color, right? Really speak to how white supremacy is showing up, right? And it's important. So if pride starts at home, all the other numbers the 5 things that I mentioned will be a breeze because you will show up and be the way that you want people to treat you. And that is the foundation of it. You want to be treated, and you want to treat others, and you want to do for others the way you want done for you. And if that is not the foundation of how you move, then that doesn't show up in your pride. And then next year, we'll be back again having another conversation around pride diversity or not, right? No. Let's make that the conversation in 2022 is, hey, we're this beautiful commitment to diversity. Let me show you how we did it. Let me show you what steps we made. Let me show you how we celebrated. Let me show you what we're dedicated to making happen, right? That's the workshop we should hope to have in 2022. So we stop having these questions. But ask yourself the hard questions, do the work, and remember, pride starts with you. Thank you, everybody. I just want to see if there's anything in the chat. Am I missing anything in the chat? Any questions I didn't answer? Yes, people are posting amazing books, right? Bias, White Fragility. Yes, Pierce. Ooh, White Fragility. That's a good book. Read that. All that. Thank you, Alan. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you, Kyle, Monica, Aria, all those folks who are in the chat, who are chiming in. I hope this provided some clarity for folks. Again, I'm Monique. I'm Mo to my friends, so I'm Mo to all of you. I'm with Queen's Pride. You can reach me at mo@queenspride.org. Reach out, have any questions, talk, chat. Love that. Thank you again to Out Connecticut and to all the folks who are participating in NERP these few days. It's been a pleasure talking to y'all, and hopefully 2022, I'll see you again, and I'll be doing the workshop on celebrating diversity, not how we get there. Let's stop talking about that. All right. Thank all of y'all. Love y'all. See y'all soon.
Thank you so much, Mo. That was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was awesome. And so, yeah, this year is presenting the challenge, and next year's NERP is the analysis.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
So there's more sessions at
11:15. So we get to 20-minute break, and then we'll be back. So
see you then.
all right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.